This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Pagod? Nanunuyo ang lalamunan? O baka naman nahihirapan kang mag-focus sa ginagawa? Kapartner, baka naman dehydrated ka na. Ang katawan natin ay binubuo ng halos 60% hanggang 70% na tubig. Kung walang sapat na hydration, parang sasakyang walang gasolina ang ating katawan, hindi makakaarangkada. Bakit nga ba mahalaga ang tamang hydration? Hindi lamang ito pamatid uhaw dahil nakatutulong rin ito sa pagdaloy ng sustansya sa katawan, pagpapanatili ng tamang body temperature, at pagpapakinis ng kutis. Kaya't huwag nang hintayin pang mauhaw ka bago uminom. Ang pagkauhaw ay babala na ng iyong katawan na ikaw ay dehydrated na. Ang standard na payo ng mga doktor ay 8 baso ng tubig ang dapat inumin bawat araw. Pero tandaan, depende ito sa iyong timbang, edad at kung gaano ka ka-active. Samantala, narito ang ilang gabay para manatiling hydrated. Simula ng araw sa isang basong tubig. Magbaon ng sariling tumbler para siguradong may maiinom saan man magpunta. At hanggat maaari, piliin ang tubig kaysa mga matatamis na inumin. Kaya mga kapartner, manatiling hydrated para makaiwas sa mas malalang sakit at upang maalagaan ang iyong kalusugan.
In the headlines, a U.S. naval blockade targeting Iranian ports enters its second day with dozens of tankers still stalled in the Strait of Hormuz, sending global energy markets into turmoil. In Israel, the IDF is warning of a critical shortage of up to 15,000 soldiers as the military chief of staff raises fears of an operational collapse amid an expanding offensive in Lebanon. On Capitol Hill, Energy Secretary Chris Wright faced sharp criticism from Democratic lawmakers today who are blaming the administration's Iran campaign for a record spike in gas prices. In the Philippines, a former national security advisor is raising red flags over a reported U.S. plan to build a major naval fuel depot in Davao Gulf, with analysts warning of serious sovereignty implications for the Philippines. Japan has announced a $10 billion aid package to strengthen energy security across Asia as nations in the region grapple with rising costs and supply disruptions. In sports, the Charlotte Hornets survive an overtime thriller to eliminate the Miami Heat with LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges leading the charge. And later, Gandalf and Frodo are back. Ian McKellen and Elijah Wood are set to reprise their roles in The Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum, as Warner Brothers expands the iconic franchise. I'm Almar Forsuelo. Newsline World starts now. The head of the International Maritime Organization has issued a direct legal warning, declaring that no country has the authority to block or impose tolls on an international strait as a U.S. blockade on maritime traffic entering and leaving Iranian ports took effect Monday with more than 15 warships deployed. Franco Beranda reports.
That allowed IMO Secretary General Arsenio Dominguez told CGTN that no country has the authority to block or impose tolls on an international strait. He addressed that deepening crisis in the Strait of Hormuz, where traffic has slowed significantly or been rerouted as tensions between Iran, Israel, and the United States continue to escalate. The blockade came into force after peace talks in Islamabad collapsed over the weekend, ending without a deal despite lengthy negotiations between Iranian and U.S. delegations.
There's no legal mechanism that allows a country, any country, to either block or introduce a payment or a toll system on an international strait that deals with international navigation. This is very well defined both in the law of the sea convention as well as the customary maritime law.
The human cost of the crisis is mounting. Dominguez said approximately 20,000 seafarers are now expected to remain trapped at sea, many facing fatigue and serious mental health strain as vessels remain stranded with no clear timeline for resolution. Meanwhile, the IMO said it is working with regional governments to deliver essential supplies, including water, food, and fuel to ships unable to leave the area.
The more that the countries engage and acknowledge to everyone the negative impact that this conflict is having on those countries, particularly developing ones that have no part in this crisis, the more that we get that moving forward in relation to focusing on the solutions on the relevant agencies. It's not only within the discussions and conversations at IMO, but in other parts of the United Nations as well.
Dominguez acknowledged that the root causes of the conflict fall outside the IMO's mandate, but stressed that the international community must urgently focus on the escalation and amplifying awareness of the crisis' impact on nations with no stake in the fighting. The two-week ceasefire between Iran and the United States, which took effect April 8th after nearly 40 days of conflict, remains technically in place, but with talks collapsed and the blockade now enforced, its durability and increasingly in question. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Franco Baranda, SMNI News.
The Israeli Defense Forces issued a stark warning, revealing a shortage of up to 15,000 soldiers as military leaders push for urgent legislative reforms to prevent a collapse of operational capacity. More on this from Verhil Parba.
In a press briefing, IDF spokesperson Efe Defrine painted a grim picture of the military's manpower situation. The IDF is currently missing between 12,000 and 15,000 personnel, including approximately 8,000 frontline combat troops. This shortage, equivalent to losing one entire company per battalion, comes at a time when Israel is significantly expanding its ground maneuvers in southern Lebanon. Defrine warned that current reserve laws are a relic of a previous era and are no longer relevant to the intensity of the current multi-front conflict. The crisis is so severe that Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir cautioned the military could collapse in on itself without a massive influx of new recruits and extended service periods for existing soldiers.
בין 12 ל-15,000 חיילים, מתוכם בין 7,000 ל-8,000 לוחמים. חסרים בצה"ל, זה המצב.
The manpower debate is fueled by deep domestic tensions. Following a 2024 Supreme Court ruling, ultra-Orthodox Jewish men are now legally required to serve, ending decades of exemptions. However, widespread resistance with the Haridai community continues to spark protest, with many maintaining the religious study is their primary contribution to national security. Despite the internal crisis, the IDF has completed the encirclement of Binch Bel, a key Hezbollah stronghold. Defrine stated that the objective remains to turn the entire area up to the Litani River into a destruction zone for Hezbollah, a mission currently being carried out by roughly 130,000 reservists who have been serving for over 2 years.
ככל שכוחותינו ממשיכים לנוע קדימה, אנחנו פוגשים אויב חלש ומוכה שנסוג לאחור. הרמטכ"ל אישר ביממה האחרונה את התוכניות להמשך בלבנון ובאיראן, וסייר היום בדרום לבנון עם מפקדי ולוחמי אוגדה 162. כפי שהנחה הרמטכ"ל, כל השטח בדרום לבנון, עד קו הליטני, יהפוך לשטח השמדה עבור מחבלי חיזבאללה.
While the IDF reports tactical successes, including the elimination of 250 Hezbollah fighters last week, the sustainability of the offensive remains in doubt. As the amazing generation of reservists faces exhaustion, the Israeli government faces a choice: pass divisive new conscription laws or risk a military overextension that could compromise Israel's security. This has been Verhil Parba, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright faced scathing criticism in Washington on Wednesday as lawmakers linked the administration's military campaign in Iran to a sharp increase in gasoline prices. This report from Carlo de la Peña.
The United States average for gasoline has surged to $4.12 per gallon, marking a nearly 40% increase since the start of the conflict in late February. During a House committee hearing on Wednesday, Ohio Representative Marcy Kaptur led the charge, branding the escalation as the largest single-month increase on record and directly tying the energy affordability crisis to the invasion of Iran. Representative Rosa De Lauro echoed these concerns, accusing the administration of a war of choice that has left American families struggling with a dollar per gallon average increase in just weeks.
President Trump's invasion of Iran has sent energy prices soaring for American consumers. Since the war began in late February, gas prices have jumped more than $1 a gallon, and the national average hit $4.12 this week. The gasoline price spike in March was the largest single-month increase on record. I really don't understand why the administration is punting in such a vital energy sector.
Wright firmly rejected the narrative of a policy-driven crisis. He argued that the current costs are still significantly lower than the peak prices seen during the Biden administration, which hit records high in 2022. Wright defended the military operations as a long-term security necessity to end 47 years of conflict and prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. However, Florida Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz countered that the administration's focus on fossil fuels and the cancellation of renewable energy projects has only heightened the cost of living chaos currently facing the nation.
We're putting to end a 47-year conflict with a nation that's threatened peace, stability, American soldiers, and global supply of energy, about to get nuclear weapons. And in the midst of that crisis, gasoline prices today are $1 a gallon cheaper than they were in the middle of the Biden administration.
With the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports entering its third day, the Strait of Hormuz, which handles 20% of global energy flows, remains a volatile choke point. As international markets react to the instability, American lawmakers warn that without a shift in strategy, energy costs could continue their record-breaking ascent. Reporting for Newsline World, this is Bencarlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
Prominent Iranian political analyst Mohammad Ghaderi has dismissed the ongoing U.S. naval blockade as a path of failure, arguing that Tehran's resilience will outlast Western pressures as the Strait of Hormuz remains under Iranian control. This report. As the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports enters its third day, political sentiment in Tehran remains one of defiance. International affairs analyst Mohammad Ghaderi argued that U.S. President Donald Trump has already been defeated by Iran in 4 key arenas: the battlefield, public presence, the war of narratives, and diplomacy. Ghaderi asserted that the current maritime siege fails to solve Washington's strategic problems and instead adds to global instability. He characterized Trump's actions in the Strait of Hormuz not as a move to secure navigation, but as an attempt to restrict and confine a waterway that is essential for regulating global energy prices.
ترامپ کاملا متوجه تغییر فاز در نظم بین‌المللی شده. نظم بین‌المللی در حال رسیدن به یک شرایط جدیدی است که بازیگران نوظهوری مثل جمهوری اسلامی ایران دارن ایفای نقش مؤثر میکنن در این فضا و اساساً نظم گذشته و اون چارچوب‌های نظم گذشته دیگه کارآمدی نداره. بنابراین ترامپ در 4 عرصه حداقل در این جنگ از ایران شکست خورده. به خاطر همین هم از الان این موضوعات کاملا با گذشته تغییر فاز پیدا کرده. یک عرصه نظامی، 2 عرصه یابان و مردم، 3 عرصه اذهان عمومی و افکار عمومی در جنگ روایت ها و 4 در عرصه دیپلماسی. در هر 4 عرصه ترامپ شکست برده، بنابراین میدونه که نمیتونه در مقابل اراده ملت ایران بخواد اظهار نظری بکنه که حقوق ملت ایران بخواد نفی بشه.
The analyst also took aim at European nations, urging them to break free from what he described as Zionist influence that portrays Iran as a malicious actor. Ghaderi suggested that Europe should abandon expensive alternative energy pipelines and instead foster friendly relations with Tehran. Addressing the nuclear stalemate, he labeled the issue a pretext used by the U.S. to derail negotiations. He noted that even IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi has been obligated to acknowledge that there is no indication Iran is pursuing nuclear weapons despite intense political pressure from Washington.
کل موضوع هسته‌ای بیشتر شدید یک بهانه است برای اینکه توان ملت ایران برای پیشرفت و در واقع حضور در اون قله‌های بین‌المللی ممانعت درش ایجاد بشه. و شما می‌بینید که اگر واقعا بهانه نبود، ایران در همین دور آخر قبل از جنگ که در ژنو نشست ها در واقع داشت به سرانجام میرسید و مجددا مورد همه قرار گرفتیم، یا در همین اسلام طرحی رو که آماده کرده، این طرح بسیار با حسن نیت همراهه. یعنی ایران خیلی در واقع داره با حسن نیت رفتار میکنه و اون چی و حاضر به طور کامل نگرانی‌های امریکایی‌ها رو برطرف بکنه.
According to Gaderi, the breakdown of the 21-hour marathon talks in Islamabad was the result of the U.S. delegation being unauthorized by Israel to reach a deal. As the global community watches the escalating tension in the strait, Gaderi predicts that the U.S. will eventually be forced to retreat due to lower societal resilience compared to the Iranian people. Up next, Japan has announced a $10 billion aid package to strengthen energy security across Asia as the nations in the region grapple with rising costs and supply disruptions. And in the Philippines, a former national security advisor is raising red flags over a reported U.S. plan to build a major naval fuel depot in Davao Gulf, with analysts warning a serious sovereignty implications for the Philippines. More news when Newsline World returns.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika, at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod, pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen, o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has strongly condemned U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iranian schools and hospitals, calling them a violation of international law and humanitarian principles, as Tehran maintains it does not seek war and remains committed to dialogue. Angie De Leon reports.
Speaking at a meeting with medical staff in Tehran, President Masoud Pezeshkian delivered some of his sharpest remarks yet on the 40-day U.S.-Israeli military campaign against Iran, which began on February 28 and killed then Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, along with senior military commanders and more than 3,000 civilians. Iran responded to those strikes with waves of missile and drone attacks targeting Israel and U.S. assets across the Middle East.
وقتی مدرسه رو میزنه، وقتی که زایشگاه رو میزنه، وقتی بیمار، یعنی هیچ چارچوب بشری رو مراعات نکرده. شرم‌آوره. و دنیا اینو باید ببینه و در مقابل اینا ادعا میکنن ما تروریستیم. تروریستای واقعی اونان که هر جا رو هر کی رو هر موقع دلشون خواست قتل عام میکنن. بعد میشینن پشت تریبون دم از حقوق بشر میزنن. شرمش.
Pezeshkian insisted Iran had committed no crime and reiterated that the country does not seek war or instability, stressing Tehran's preference for dialogue and constructive engagement with other nations. He credited the unity and cohesion of the Iranian people with thwarting what he described as enemy plots, and praised the Iranian Red Crescent Society for its professionalism throughout the conflict. A 2-week ceasefire between Iran and the United States took effect on April 8. Subsequent talks between Iranian and U.S. delegations in Pakistan failed to produce a formal agreement, leaving the path to a permanent resolution uncertain. With the ceasefire holding but negotiations stalled, Tehran's public posture, condemning the strikes while insisting on diplomacy, reflects the difficult balancing act Pezeshkian faces as he attempts to navigate Iran's position in the weeks ahead. Angie De Leon, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Japan has announced a $10 billion aid package aimed at strengthening energy supply and security across Asia. Officials say the funding will support infrastructure development, diversify energy sources, and enhance resilience amid ongoing global supply uncertainties. The initiative comes as many countries in the region face rising energy costs and potential disruptions linked to geopolitical tensions. Japan emphasized the importance of stable energy access in sustaining economic growth and ensuring regional stability. The move highlights Tokyo's growing role in supporting energy security in Asia as nations seek long-term solutions to supply challenges. Former National Security Advisor is raising questions over a reported U.S. government plan to build a major naval fuel depot in Davao Gulf, as local officials and analysts warn of potential sovereignty and diplomatic implications for the Philippines. MJ Modiha reports.
The U.S. government is reportedly planning to build a major naval fuel station in the Philippines, particularly in the Davao Gulf. According to reports, the proposed depot can store up to 41 million gallons of naval and aviation fuel. The U.S. Defense Logistics Agency has already opened a bidding for the project. It will be built along the western coast of Davao Gulf, covering Davao City, Davao del Sur, and Malalag Bay. This raised questions from former National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon Jr., including America's choice of location.
Bakit naman Davao ang paglalagyan ng depo? Bakit Davao lang?
Experts say Davao Gulf is strategic for this type of facility. This will give U.S. warships faster access to the Sulu Sea and Celebes Sea. These routes are also considered vital for both commercial and military vessels. However, the Davao City government strongly opposed the plan. The local government, however, stated it will not support the project if it will not reduce the impact of tensions in the Middle East, especially in fuel prices and basic goods.
Mayroon namang mga depo pa dyan na natitira tulad ng Phoenix, mayroon dyan sa Davao. Yung mga iba pang kumpanya mayroon, yun ang punuin natin. Ngayon, kung gusto magtayo ng Amerika, wag na lang sila, tayo na lang.
Political strategist Professor Malutikia, for her part, also pointed out that the United States already has a presence in Subic. Because of this, she said it is questionable why another depot is still needed in the Davao Peninsula. She added that if this continues, it may appear that the Philippines is giving up its sovereignty to the United States. She even compared it to becoming the 51st state of the United States.
May diplomatic ramifications talaga yan. Kinakaibigan natin ng mga suppliers ng gasolina ngayon, ng langis. Iran, Saudi Arabia, including China at Russia. So, huwag nating lagyan ng tatak na sa Amerika yan, kundi para lang sa Pilipinas.
For former Secretary Esperon, they have already seen the effects of tensions in the Middle East during the Duterte administration. And it is a known fact that the United States, which plans to build the fuel depot in Davao Gulf, along with Israel, initiated the conflict against Iran. According to Esperon, contingency plans were already prepared at that time. However, if these measures had been continued by the current Philippine government, the increase in oil prices in the country would not have been this severe.
We have seen it already, kaya mayroon nga tayong mga ginawang contingency plans noon. At dapat itinuloy-tuloy na sana yon ng 2022-2023. Nagkulang lang ng follow-through.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondeha, SMNA News.
President Xi Jinping and Tulam have reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening China-Vietnam bilateral ties during a high-level meeting in Beijing. Xi welcomed Tulam's visit, noting that China will continue to prioritize Vietnam in its neighborhood diplomacy regardless of global developments.
迎苏林总书记同志再次访问中国，你当选国家主席后第一时间到访中国，体现了你对发展中越关系的高度重视。无论国际形势如何变化，中方始终将越南作为周边外交优先方向。欢迎苏林总书记同志再次访问中国。你当选国家主席后第一时间到访中国，体现了你对发展中越关系的高度重视。无论国际形势如何变化，中方始终将越南作为周边外交优先方向。
She also emphasized deepening solidarity and cooperation, with both sides aiming to build a shared future partnership of greater strategic significance. For his part, Tulam congratulated China on its economic achievements and expressed confidence in its continued development.
Cũng nhiệt liệt chúc mừng Đảng, Nhà nước và nhân dân Trung Quốc dưới sự lãnh đạo hạt nhân của đồng chí Tổng Bí thư, Chủ tịch nước Tập Cận Bình đã hoàn thành thắng lợi cái quy hoạch 5 năm lần thứ 14 với rất nhiều những thành tựu quan trọng mang tính thời đại. Tôi cũng tin tưởng rằng là các đồng chí sẽ triển khai thuận lợi cái quy hoạch 5 năm lần thứ 15 là trụ cột ổn định, là động lực hàng đầu cho tăng trưởng và phát triển toàn cầu.
The meeting highlights strengthening ties between China and Vietnam as both countries seek closer cooperation amid evolving global dynamics. When we return in sports, the Charlotte Hornets survive an overtime thriller to eliminate the Miami Heat with LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges leading the charge. And later, Gandalf and Frodo are back. Ian McKellen and Elijah Wood are set to reprise their roles in The Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum, as Warner Brothers expands the iconic franchise. More news after the break.
sa panahon ng ingay, sa panahon ng maraming tanong. Panahon na para marinig ang katotohanan.
Sa totoo lang, ano ba talaga ang nangyayari sa ating bansa?
At sa totoo lang, handa ba tayong harapin ang katotohanan?
Sa totoo lang,
dito walang iwasan,
walang paligoy-ligoy,
diretsong usapan.
Sa totoo lang.
Sa SMNI.
Pagod? Nanunuyo ang lalamunan? O baka naman nahihirapan kang mag-focus sa ginagawa? Kapartner, baka naman dehydrated ka na. Ang katawan natin ay binubuo ng halos 60% hanggang 70% na tubig. Kung walang sapat na hydration, parang sasakyang walang gasolina ang ating katawan, hindi makakaarangkada. Bakit nga ba mahalaga ang tamang hydration? Hindi lamang ito pamatid uhaw dahil nakatutulong rin ito sa pagdaloy ng sustansya sa katawan, pagpapanatili ng tamang body temperature, at pagpapakinis ng kutis. Kaya't huwag nang hintayin pang mauhaw ka bago uminom. Ang pagkauhaw ay babala na ng iyong katawan na ikaw ay dehydrated na. Ang standard na payo ng mga doktor ay 8 baso ng tubig ang dapat inumin bawat araw. Pero tandaan, depende ito sa iyong timbang, edad at kung gaano ka ka-active. Samantala, narito ang ilang gabay para manatiling hydrated. Simula ng araw sa isang basong tubig. Magbaon ng sariling tumbler para siguradong may maiinom saan man magpunta. At hanggat maaari, piliin ang tubig kaysa mga matatamis na inumin. Kaya mga kapartner, manatiling hydrated para makaiwas sa mas malalang sakit at upang maalagaan ang iyong kalusugan.
Ikaw ba ay namomroblema sa taas ng electric bill buwan-buwan? Huwag mag-alala, narito ang ilang paraan upang makatipid sa kuryente. Patayin ang mga ilaw at appliances kapag hindi ginagamit. Sa halip ay gumamit ng natural na liwanag upang makatipid sa kuryente. Tanggalin sa saksakan ang mga appliances kung hindi ginagamit. Iwasan ang paggamit ng maraming appliances ng sabay-sabay. Gumamit ng LED bulbs. Ito ay mas tipid sa kuryente kumpara sa mga incandescent at fluorescent bulbs. Regular na linisin ang mga appliances tulad ng electric fan, aircon vents at refrigerator. Magkaroon ng tagdang araw sa isang linggo sa pamamalansya at paglalaba. Gumamit ng energy-efficient appliances. Tandaan, maging wais sa paggamit ng kuryente upang makatipid para mas gumaan ang buhay. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
In a remarkable achievement that defies conventional expectations, 77-year-old Russell Galt has been admitted to the Queensland Bar, making headlines as one of the oldest individuals to ever officially become a lawyer, inspiring others to pursue their goals no matter their age. Faith Agustin tells us the story.
Russell Galt's journey to becoming a lawyer is a story of perseverance, dedication, and the belief that it's never too late to start something new. After years of pursuing other careers, including working in the aviation sector and the family business, Galt decided at 70 to embark on a law degree at the University of Queensland. His decision was motivated by a long-standing interest in law which had been sidelined by life's other demands. Despite the challenges of studying later in life, Galt completed his law degree and passed the necessary examinations to be admitted to the Queensland Bar in 2021. His admission ceremony, which took place in front of friends, family, and legal professionals, was a proud moment for the senior lawyer. In a speech during the event, Galt reflected on the importance of lifelong learning and encouraged others to never let age define their potential. Galt's story has caught the attention of legal professionals and students alike, showing that age should never be a barrier to following one's dreams. He is now expected to take on clients in a variety of legal matters, bringing with him a wealth of life experience that many young lawyers may not have. As Galt continues to practice law, his journey serves as an inspiration to people everywhere, showing that the pursuit of knowledge and a fulfilling career can come at any stage of life. This has been Faith Agustin, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Live Nation and its subsidiary Ticketmaster have been found liable for operating as a harmful monopoly over large venues following a federal court ruling in New York. Meanwhile, Ian McKellen and Elijah Wood are set to reprise their roles in a new The Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum, as Warner Brothers expands the iconic franchise. Stella Maris for the updates.
A jury in New York City deliberated for 4 days before reaching the verdict, marking a significant development in the long-running case. The issue gained widespread attention in 2022 after Taylor Swift publicly criticized Ticketmaster over its handling of ticket sales for her highly anticipated Eras Tour. The botched rollout sparked outrage among fans and prompted calls for a broader investigation into the company's market dominance and practices. The ruling could have major implications for the live entertainment industry, potentially reshaping how tickets are sold and regulated in the future. The studio confirmed the returning cast alongside new additions Kate Winslet and Jamie Dornan ahead of the film's planned 2027 release. The announcement was made during CinemaCon, where Warner Bros. Outlined its plans to revisit Middle-earth with a live-action feature centered on the mysterious character Gollum. The upcoming project marks another major step in reviving the globally popular fantasy franchise for a new generation of audiences. Fans can expect more details in the coming months as production gears up for the highly anticipated return to Middle-earth. This has been Stella Maris, your citizen correspondent, bringing you the latest showbuzz.
In sports, Paris Saint-Germain powered into the semi-finals after a commanding win over Liverpool in the Champions League. Meanwhile, Charlotte Hornets survived a chaotic overtime battle to eliminate the Miami Heat and keep their playoff hopes alive. Carlo De La Peña tells us more.
With a comfortable first-leg advantage, PSG completed a dominant 4-0 aggregate victory after beating Liverpool 2-0 at Anfield in the UEFA Champions League quarterfinals. Ousmane Dembélé delivered the decisive blows, scoring twice in the second half to put the tie beyond Liverpool's reach. Liverpool's night unraveled early after Hugo Ekitike went down with a serious leg injury, forcing Mohamed Salah into action ahead of schedule. Despite late attacking pressure, Liverpool failed to convert key chances, while a potential penalty for Alexis McAllister was overturned by VAR. Dembélé finally broke the deadlock in the 72nd minute with a clinical strike before sealing the win in stoppage time off a counter-attack. The loss ends Liverpool's European run and confirms a trophy-less season, while PSG advanced to a third straight semi-final with momentum firmly on their side. Meanwhile, in a do-or-die NBA play-in tournament showdown, the Hornets pulled off a thrilling 127-126 overtime victory to knock Miami out of playoff contention. LaMelo Ball led the way with 30 points and 10 assists, including the game-winning layup with 4.7 seconds left in overtime. Miles Bridges added 28 points and capped the win with a clutch down on Davion Mitchell at the buzzer to deny Miami a final shot at victory. The game swung wildly in the closing moments as Tyler Herro briefly gave Miami the lead with 3 clutch free throws after drawing a foul from Ball. But Ball quickly redeemed himself, attacking the lane and converting the decisive basket that ultimately sealed the win. Kobe White played a key role in forcing overtime, draining a clutch three-pointer late in regulation to keep Charlotte alive. Miami, led by Mitchell's 28 points and Andrew Wiggins' 27, also suffered a major blow after Bam Adebayo exited early with a back injury. With the victory, Charlotte advances to face the loser of the matchup between Philadelphia and Orlando for the final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference, moving one step closer to ending a decade-long postseason drought. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the song. Your future depends on when you are now, not your past. Forget your past, bury it, grow up, and move on. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Almar Forzuelo. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.